Welcome to the Menopause Conversations podcast. My name's Angela Council and I'm your host for this podcast, and this is where you learn all about menopause, what is happening to your body, to your hormones, and life in general. Everything is changing and sometimes it can seem really confusing, but this is where the confusion stops right now. This podcast will share with you everything you need to know about how you can navigate your menopause transition with ease. So sit back and enjoy the show. Bye for now. Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of the Menopause Conversations podcast. My name is Angela Council, your host for the podcast. And this week, I just want to have a little bit of a chat around how we blame a lot of things on menopause. When women get to a certain age group and they start experiencing different symptoms, it's, the common answer is, it's just menopause or it's just perimenopause. You go and see a doctor and you're telling them how you're feeling and things don't seem quite right. That's just the stage of life you're in. There's nothing you can do about it. So in a way, you get dismissed. And I think it's really important that we look beyond what's going on with your hormones, just to make sure there's nothing else going on. I know that you are busy women and you don't have time to be searching for answers everywhere, but it's really important for your health that you understand what is going on. So if you're experiencing symptoms like heavier bleeding, brain fog, weight gain, not sleeping properly, body aches and pains, low energy, whilst those symptoms can be attributed to menopause, generally there's something else that's also might be going on. And this is where we need to start looking beyond menopause. So that's what I want to talk about today. What else do we need to be looking at just to make sure that everything else is okay and it's not just the shift in hormones? Because really the shift in hormones might trigger some of these symptoms, but they're not necessarily the cause of many of these symptoms, because as our hormones shift, our body responds in a different way. And sometimes our hormones have been covering up something that may have been going on that we're not really aware of. And then as the hormones kind of go down, it's like the curtains are being drawn back, and now we can actually see what's really going on. So some of the other things that we need to be really being aware of is, number one, your thyroid. Is your thyroid functioning properly? Because many women at this time of life, their thyroid is a little bit underactive. I'm not saying that you've got a thyroid disease, and yes, some women do, and they've been diagnosed with conditions like Hashimoto's, or they've had their thyroid removed. But sometimes you can just have what's known as subclinical thyroid disease. So what that means is the thyroid's just not functioning as well as it could do. And this is often due to our lifestyle, due to stress, and how we some of the common symptoms of this is weight gain. And weight gain for the thyroid tends to be more around the hips and the bum. I'll talk about the belly in a minute. Hair loss, problem sleeping, low energy. See how some of these symptoms often can be called menopause symptoms? So the thyroid, it's really important that you get your thyroid checked if you're experiencing some of these symptoms. And when you go to the doctor, they're likely just to check your TSH levels and say, yeah, everything's okay. TSH really isn't telling you how well your thyroid is working. It's actually telling you how well your pituitary gland is working. If you can find a great doctor, you need to be getting your T4, your T3, ideally your reverse T3, and your thyroid antibodies tested as well. If your doctor won't do it, because many won't, because Medicare won't cover it, you can offer to pay for it and do it privately, or there are private pathology labs that you can go to. But having a good idea of what's going on with your thyroid might give you some clues as to why you're experiencing some of the symptoms. Other thing we need to consider too is nutrient deficiencies. And many of us are nutrient deficient because of our diet, because of our lifestyle. If you're bleeding a lot, so if you've got heavy periods, then your iron levels are probably low. And the thing is, it's a bit of a circular thing, is when your iron levels are low, you'll bleed heavier. And because you bleed heavier, your iron levels are low. And when your iron levels are low, what else happens is that your energy levels come down, because iron is used for carrying oxygen around the body, so you don't have enough energy, lots of brain fog. You can also start losing some of your hair. Once again, a lot of symptoms that are often associated with the perimenopause, menopause transition. But many women at this time of life are iron deficient. And then we also need to be looking at other nutrient deficiencies as well, which could be causing an issue. Zinc deficiency also can cause hair loss, can cause problems with your taste and not being able to taste properly, can cause skin conditions. And then we've got to look at calcium, magnesium. I've done a whole series of podcasts on each of these different nutrients and the common signs of deficiencies and what you can do to actually increase those levels through your food. So I'll put the links to them in the show notes, so you can go back and have a listen to those ones as well. So we need to be considering what's going on with our nutrients. And then we also, one of the things I talk about a lot, particularly in my programs that I run, is insulin resistance. So many women are insulin resistant. So a sign of insulin resistance, common sign of insulin resistance, is the meno belly that just seem to pop up out of nowhere. So what is insulin resistance, you might be wondering. So insulin itself is a hormone that's released by the pancreas. And when we eat foods and we have there's glucose in that food, what happens is the pancreas releases insulin, and then insulin takes the glucose in the blood and it puts it into the cells to use as energy. And when all the cells are full of glucose, then insulin then shunts any extra glucose over to the liver, and it gets converted as fat. Now, when we get insulin resistant, what happens is, instead of insulin putting that energy, that glucose energy, into your cells, it just shunts it straight to the liver. And now we start storing fat around our belly, and that's when this meno belly comes. And the other side of that is our energy levels come down, because we're not getting the glucose into the cells to give us energy. So many women are insulin resistant during their perimenopause, menopause transition. And this is due to a couple of factors. Number one is the lifestyle and the diet that they've had up until this stage of life. Also, estrogen itself is very protective against insulin resistance. So as insulin comes down, then we're more likely to have insulin resistance. So many of the women that I work with in my programs have insulin resistance. The other thing that was a really big issue, and this works with, kind of goes along with insulin resistance, and that is high cortisol levels. Now, cortisol is a stress hormone. And when your body's under stress all of the time, the body releases cortisol. Now, one of the things that cortisol does, lots of cortisol in your body, what it does, like insulin resistance, it stores fat around the belly. And the body's doing this as a protective mechanism, because in the past, way back, when we were cave people, when we didn't always have food, when we have feasts and then we have famines, we stored fat in this area because it was easy to be able to reuse that when we didn't have enough food. It was also a very protective mechanism. It protected the essential organs. But hey, we're not living in caves anymore. We don't have to worry about the dangers of living with wild animals around us. So we don't really need to be storing all this excess fat around our belly, but we are, because the body is still in that ongoing stress response. That's just the way it functions. And the other thing that happens when we're highly stressed is our digestion slows down. So we're not absorbing nutrients properly. Our blood pressure goes up. Our cholesterol levels can start to go up because there's inflammation going on, and cholesterol is actually an anti-inflammatory. So we need cholesterol to bring down our inflammation levels. We also need it to make hormones as well. Our immune system starts to come down. Our circulation starts to come down. So we start to get sick, we get anxious and jittery, that feeling of your heart is racing and you're feeling anxiety, that's cortisol. You start to get sick more often, your energy levels are low. And the other side of the high cortisol is when our ovaries stop producing as much hormone, the adrenal glands actually have the ability to produce some hormone at a lower level. So it can produce estrogen and progesterone at a lower level. But if the adrenal glands are putting all of their resources into producing cortisol, there's not enough left over to produce the reproductive hormones. And that's when we can find that we've got these imbalances going on between estrogen and progesterone as well. So stress is playing a major, major role in a lot of the symptoms that we're experiencing. And then the other things that I've mentioned as well, and stress plays a role in your thyroid function, it plays a role in your insulin production, it plays a role in your ability to absorb your nutrients through your digestive tract. So you can see that nothing stand alone. They're all kind of roll in together. So when we start to address the stress, we can actually then start to impact a lot of the different symptoms that are happening. Now, you go, well, what can I do about my stress? There's so much stress going on. And there is. Many of us got a lot of things going on in our lives, whether or not we were in business, we're leading teams, we've got family, we've got aging parents. And let's just not talk about what's going on in the world. But there are some things that you do have control over. And they're the things like the food that you eat, because the food you eat can cause stress on the body. Drinking alcohol, you might think it's a nice relaxant, but no, it's actually, I'm sorry to say, it's a stress on the body. It's a poison in the body. It stresses the body, causes your body to actually store fat. Did you know 1 glass of alcohol stops fat burning for 24 hours? So if you're drinking a glass of wine every single night, your body's not burning fat. So add that on top of everything else that's going on. Maybe that might be a little bit of an incentive for you to maybe cut back. As we age, as we come into this stage of life, our body simply can't process alcohol the way it might have been able to when we're in our 20s. I'm really sorry to tell you that. Let's move on. So when we look at the food that we're eating, if we focus on eating healthy, whole foods, so lots of plants, vegetables, fruits, and animal proteins. If you eat animal proteins, include some of that as well. Make sure it's good quality. But it's more of the plant foods than it is of the animal proteins, because too much animal proteins can be inflammatory on the body. That raises your cortisol levels, can make you more insulin resistance, can impact the thyroid. So when we're looking at the food that we're eating and reduce the, I don't need to tell you which food isn't healthy for you. You already know. And you know whether or not you're eating that food. But that is causing a stress on your body. Moving your body was designed to move. So if you're not exercising, you're not actually allowing your body to release stress. How often have you sat at your desk working and you can kind of feel yourself getting tighter and tighter around the neck, and your shoulders are coming up, and you're just getting stiffer and stiffer, and your whole body is stiff and it's sore? Shake it out and move. Regular movement. Your body needs regular movement. I don't want to call it exercise, because exercise seems like hard work, but getting regular movement. The exercise in itself is a stress on the body, but it's actually good for you, because what it does is it helps you get stronger, and that's what we want. We want our bodies to be stronger. Making sure you get a good night's sleep. And when you exercise on a regular basis, you're actually going to sleep better. You know that. When your kids were small, what did you do? Get them running around, going crazy, and they slept better. You will too. You'll sleep better. So getting a good night's sleep. And the other thing that's really important, and I think that we forget sometimes because we're so busy doing everything for everyone else, is taking some time for yourself. And whether that's first thing in the morning before you get your day started, or maybe that might be later in the day as you wind up the day, doesn't matter. Taking some time to reflect, to review, to dream. This is where journaling helps, or meditation if you want to meditate. It doesn't have to be a long time. 20 minutes. What's the saying? If meditate for 20 minutes, and if you don't have 20 minutes to meditate, well, then you need to meditate for 2 hours or something like that. Take the time for yourself. Maybe it's just a walk in the park at lunchtime. For me, I love pulling my hiking boots on and my backpack on, and I disappear into the bush. I do that for hours. Don't do it every day, but I know that if I know when my body feels really stressed, that if I can step away and get out and go out into nature, I'm going to feel so much better. Even if that's just a break while the jug's boiling for my next cup of tea, I walk outside, take a few big deep breaths, throw the ball to the dogs or give them a pat. Just take a bit of time for yourself. Now, I've written an ebook it's got some of this stuff in it, and it's going to give you a few more tips, and it's called The Secret to Thriving in Menopause ebook. Now, the link for it is bit.ly/thriving-ebook. I will put the link into the show notes as well so you can find it. But grab a copy, have a look, and see what you can do for your body that can bring the stress down. And when you start to bring the stress down, then you'll start to see that some of those symptoms just start to disappear. And then ask yourself, was it really menopause, or was it something else that was going on? So hopefully this has been useful for you. If you've enjoyed it, please leave me a rating and review wherever you're watching this video or listening to this podcast, so that more women get to learn a little bit more about what's going on in their menopause journey. The more we can speak about menopause and the more we can share this information, the more that women can thrive in this next stage of life. It doesn't need to be a terrible time. Every woman deserves to thrive in menopause and beyond. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I hope you enjoyed it. Till next week, bye for now.